Well, Scott, it's always a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's been a while, and I'm super excited to have an excuse to talk again. So welcome back, dude.
It's good to be back.
So since it has been at least a few months since we chatted last, let's talk about what's been going on in the world of not Philmont. I mean, Lnyx.
I have a couple friends that call it not Philmont. They're going to be tickled to death when they hear this and hear you calling it not Philmont. Oh, we've just been living under the shadow. It's been good. It's been working on music, doing a lot of just like co-writing and features and collaborations and stuff. Something we've gotten into a lot more lately, and just really enjoyed doing that. And it's always fun working with other artists and producers and just different people and getting some different takes on songs and just trying to come up with new ideas that way. So it's been a lot of fun.
So now, what do you find fulfilling about collaborating as opposed to just working on music either by yourself for Lnyx or, of course, working with the other half of your band, aka your wife?
It's fun just having different energy and different input. If I sit down and write by myself or produce something myself, I kind of like go to the same, a lot of the same direction as far as where I would go with melody or where I would go with the chords or even like from the sounds or samples and stuff. You work with somebody else who maybe does that same thing in their own world and they just bring something new to your sound and vice versa. And so you kind of meet in the middle and come up with something ideally like new and fresh. And so we released 2 singles this summer. The first one was called West. And that was with a producer that we've worked with before his name's Keller. He's out of Nashville here. And for that one, actually, I wrote the song with a co-writer. We just got together to write and came up with a song. And it was simply just piano based. And then I actually had an idea for the track and I knew what I wanted to sound like. And I realized what I wanted to sound like was a lot of Keller's work. And so I just ended up kind of taking it to him and I was like, hey, would you be interested in putting a track to this? And he was super into it. So I literally tracked all of the vocals, like the final vocals, just to the piano arrangement and sent them to him. And so he was able to produce with the full vocal stems, which is something I hadn't done before, it was a lot of fun. So then when you're listening to, he's sending over, drafts or mixes, like it's full on finished vocals and you don't have to use a lot of imagination to figure out where the song's going to go. You just kind of hear it right there. So that was awesome. So we worked with him on West. We released that a couple of months ago at the beginning of the summer. And then we worked with our friend Doug Weir, who goes by Unicron. And he's in the band We Are Leo, and he does great electronic production and remixes and stuff. And we've toured together. We've also worked together. He did one of the remixes for Chasing Stars that we just fell in love with. I love his mix of that. So we've been looking for a project to connect on, and so finally we both had time in our schedule. And I was just like, hey, I want to do a second single for the summer. So I'm thinking this sort of vibe, and he just killed the track. It was awesome, and it's one of those songs that just comes together very organically and quickly, and and like it just feels right from the beginning. Wasn't much of a struggle, which is always my favorite type of song to write.
Oh, see, I get you. Now, it's funny because I feel like I'm maybe getting old and getting forgetful because I've seen Unicron's name on a bunch of different songs as a remix artist or what have you, or a producer.
Yeah.
But I never put it together, even though his name has been on a lot of stuff for We Are Leo as the remixer. I have never put it together that he was in We Are Leo, and I'm not quite sure how I've done that.
Oh yeah, he does a lot of mixes. I mean, he's a great remix artist. He brings a totally new spin to stuff. And he's got a great ear for production and a great ear for arrangement and sounds, and he's super talented. So yeah, he does a bunch of stuff. Obviously for We Are Leo, but he's done stuff for like Rapture Ruckus and kind of a lot of people in that camp. And so he definitely stays busy. He does a lot of producing and records and stuff on his own as well. So he's a busy dude. So I was glad to nail him down for this one. I was really excited that we could get together and work on it.
So now, since you've been doing so many collaborations, is there any one artist that you haven't done a collaboration with who you just really want to that hasn't worked out quite yet?
I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of artists that if they were like, hey, I'm looking for somebody to write and sing on one of my tracks, I would be totally down for. So, yeah, everybody. The short answer for that, but I mean, I talked to a lot of people that no one's ever heard their name, and they're new or they're starting out, and get a lot of requests to work together on stuff. A lot of producers looking for top line writers and vocalists, and so you kind of have to pick and choose with that stuff. I could stay busy, full time just with everything that comes in, and people saying, "Hey, I need somebody to write on this." So it's just a matter of picking songs that I think are special or different or unique, or maybe it's just something I really connect with at the moment. And I think I can bring a lot to this. So yeah, as long as the track's really good, I'm stoked to work with whoever, for sure.
So now, as far as releasing singles, which is kind of what you've been doing a lot of lately, even though some of them are covers, some of them are originals, some of them are remixes or collaborations. I know that that's kind of the way the industry is going, is more in the line of releasing singles as opposed to releasing EPs or even albums these days, which I guess in a lot of ways makes sense because you can be a little bit more on the pulse of what's happening. You can put it out and kind of gauge what people's reactions are off of one single and be able to put that towards the next thing, as opposed to putting out a whole album at once and just really hoping that people latch on to everything. But do you think there are any more EPs or albums in the future for Lnyx, or are you guys going to continue down the path of just doing the singles for now?
We don't really have any plans to put together like a big full body of work. Like we did our first EP, we did a Captivate EP that way just because it was our first release and we wanted to have like a body of work out there. So when somebody looked us up, they had a handful of songs, and also it gave us enough material to play live so we could play original stuff live. But yeah, we had kind of even when we were doing that project, we're like, we'll do this, we'll do a 7-song EP, and then after that we're just going to release singles, so that we wouldn't take a whole year to record, that we could kind of do stuff as we're going. And then, I mean, I don't know, especially in our style of music, there's no point for like album cuts, really. It's just expensive, and it's just, I don't know, especially in our style of music, it's more single focused, and we're totally fine with that too. I think people's attention span is so short that you put all the time in for a record, whether you're releasing a single or a full record, a couple days later, people are looking for the next thing or they've forgotten about you. And so, I mean, we even did that when we kept that in mind when we were releasing plans. A lot of artists kind of tease the upcoming release. And maybe that's just for content to build hype and stuff like that. But traditionally, you build hype so that you can have really good album sales on the first day. But I've kind of found the reaction of people was like, oh, I saw you posting on Instagram about this song. I've seen the cover art. I've heard a snippet of it, and then 2 weeks later you release the song, and the person that you're saying, hey, the song's out now, they're kind of like, oh, old news. I've heard that. So I just kind of think that might be the trend. So releasing this one, we literally were just like, hey, new song next week, and did the same thing about it. And then we just released everything at once. We released the song and the lyric video and sent it all to digital. Kind of didn't draw it out, just dropped it. Just capitalize on people's on the consumer's short attention span, which we're all guilty of, myself included. So just kind of playing around with that. But yeah, I don't really think we have any plans to release anything more than just a single, unless we were doing a song and then putting some remixes out with it. That would be kind of the only package I think that we would put out.
Yeah, and I totally know what you mean, talking about not building up too much and spending a lot of time teasing a new album. The new Lecrae record just dropped, and that was kind of what I think was the problem with why a lot of people think it didn't sell as well as they expected it to, is because he's been teasing it for like 6 months. So by the time it actually came out, I almost didn't notice it was coming out, and I knew when it was coming out, And even so, it felt like it had been built up for so long that I just barely noticed it when it came out.
Yeah.
Then you talk about somebody like Beyonce just dropping an album out of nowhere, and it just was huge, just instantly. And you have to wonder if there's something to that.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think when you see something like, oh, this artist I like and they have new music, I want to hear it now. And then you can't. So like, okay, I'll wait. And then you see something else by them. It's a teaser or, something like that, or a video, or you're like, oh, that's cool. I want to hear it now. And you can't. And then by the time it comes in, it's like, oh yeah, I've heard about this for weeks now. So it's kind of old news. Everybody's been talking about it. There's no surprise. And so, yeah, I think it would be interesting to see how that landscape changes just as the way that we consume, music and content media changes.
So now we talked about some of kind of, I guess, the mechanics of it and the collaboration going into it. But since we're playing the new song Plans by Lnyx, well, why don't you tell us a little about the lyrical content, as it were? What does the song mean and kind of what went into the writing of that song?
Yeah, so it's definitely, and this has kind of been a theme really with a lot of our stuff, with a lot of our songs recently. Kind of one of those songs about, chasing your dreams and overcoming the hardships and the adversity that come along with that. And so, yeah, the hook is I've got plans, and the idea being that I've got things I want to do in life. I'm going to go out and try them. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to be, smarter for it. I'm going to pick myself back up and keep on pushing forward. I think it's really easy to get stuck in life. I mean, that's something that I think that I've experienced over the last 5 years or so, going from touring full time in Philmont for, a good handful of years to venturing out on a new project where you have to kind of restart and you have to build from the ground up. You're not really ready to get out there and start traveling and putting something out. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. And then, it's easy to get kind of stuck in the day to day if you don't refocus on, all right, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? You blink your eye and a whole year has passed and you haven't done anything to further your goals. And so that's really a lot of what the song focuses on, is just not getting stuck in one place and really pursuing what you're passionate about and keep pushing forward, even when it's hard, even when it's mundane, or even when it seems like a long shot.
Fantastic. That's cool. Now, let's talk about future plans. So what are the future plans for Lnyx, at least as far as touring goes?
We definitely haven't been touring as much as we want to. And that's something that I would really like to see changed. It's just, with every band, reevaluating the landscape and trying to figure out new ways to get out and to be successful and to stay busy and stay fed is just part of it now. And so as far as what we have planned, it's like, we try not to hold too tight to, if somebody says like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? It's like, man, this is all going to look so different 6 months, 8 months from now than it does now. So it's just, I think it's important to be flexible and to be open to new ideas and not get stuck in the same cycle. I mean, that was a lot of what the music industry struggled with, being resistant to change. I think the people that really succeed and excel are the ones that are open and willing to change and to try something new and to discover new ways. So I definitely think we fall in that category, where we're kind of seeking new opportunities, new ways to get out there and get in front of people. One of those, for example, doing collaborations, we, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, we did a collaboration with a big Latin American DJ. And it was just one of those where he sent me the track and I loved it. I immediately had an idea for it. I think I sat down that night and wrote the whole thing in one sitting, and then sent it off, and the project just went forward really quickly and did really well in Central America and South America. And fast forward about almost a year and a half later, he invites us down to Medellin, Colombia. This was last summer, to play a big festival down there with him, which is amazing. It was something that, if I had called and tried to get on that festival, or if we had a booking agent trying to get us on it, we probably wouldn't have gotten in. But just the fact that we worked with somebody and made a real connection and made music together, that door kind of opened up, and we were able to go down there and have a really, really cool experience. So, more of those would be great. I would go down to Colombia every week if I could, because it was a really incredible experience. But yeah, I think just trying to stay open to new ideas and new ways to connect, and break out of the old mold of find a label, find an agent, find a manager, get on radio, buy ads in this magazine, that sort of stuff that used to work, that is kind of not working anymore. And now it's get on this playlist and do stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but to answer your question, we would like to be on the road more. We would like to be doing more touring and stuff like that. So that's something we're definitely conscious of and looking for opportunities moving forward.
Now, I know that this question is probably a bit of a downer, but since you are a touring musician and you guys play small shows and big shows and kind of tour the country, even though it may not be as much as you would like, still being a person who plays music in a live setting with this big, horrible tragedy that just happened in Las Vegas, do you think that possibility of something like that may be happening again will stick in the back of your mind? I mean, I know as far as I go, we saw a preview for a movie that's coming out, and I was like, oh, well, we ought to take our daughter to go see that. My wife just was very honest with me that she felt like if she was to go into a public setting like that right now, all she would be able to think about would be how many exits are there? How do you get out if there's an emergency? What are you going to do if somebody comes in and starts shooting or something like that? And it's funny because I don't think it affects me the same way, because I hadn't thought about that as such, but it weighed pretty heavily on her mind. But even then, I mean, tonight I'm going to MC a concert, and I'm not going to lie that won't be at least partly in my mind. So how about you?
I mean, definitely, I definitely do think about stuff like that. I try not to, I don't know, I think being safe is one thing, but making all your decisions based on fear, you just won't leave the house. You kind of, I don't know, it's tough to say it, but you'll never be 100%, safe. And so I don't know, that can be tricky. I mean, honestly, going to Colombia was a lot like that for us. I mean, it's not the same Colombia from the 80s that you see on, Narcos, but at the same time, it is still a country where you could get robbed or something. There's a million bad things that could happen. I mean, same as probably visiting any country, but going somewhere and not knowing the language and having kind of a loose connection to the festival we were going to and the other artist and that was helping bring us over. There was a whole lot of stuff in there that made us hesitate a little bit. But at the end of the day, we kind of just made the decision of, we're not going to be 100% sure of this. And, if that's what we're waiting for to say yes, and that's not going to happen. And so we just kind of committed to it and went and just tried to travel smart and make good decisions. And yeah, I mean, had a really incredible experience. So, had we just focused on the things that could have gone wrong and could have gone poorly, and we never would have gone and never would have had that experience. And, I mean, yeah, it's terrible, what happened, and that even has to be a thought for people when they want to go out and enjoy a concert. They're not going out to do something dangerous. They're not like, I'm going to go out and do free climbing today, and there's a chance I could get hurt or die. I mean, that's not something you think about when you're going to a concert. And so, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how people kind of react to that. But I mean, I definitely understand that being on people's minds right now. Yeah, especially for anyone who's there or tied to the event at all. I could definitely see that definitely being a hang up. So,
well, I appreciate your perspective on that. I know that's not always a fun thing to talk about and whatnot, but given that you're a touring musician and I'm not, I was very curious to see how you felt about that sort of thing. Now, looking ahead, do you think that you guys have any other plans laid out that you really want to see? Plans? You like how I dropped the title of your song in there? Do you guys have any other things really nailed down that you guys are going to be working on or are going to be either releasing or putting in the mix sometime in the near future that you'd like to tell people about at this point?
Not a whole lot out in front of us, or not a whole lot that's certain. We're kind of flexible right now. We are playing a show with some other bands at the End in Nashville, and that's in November on the 10th, I believe. Yeah, so if anybody would like to catch a live show, that'll probably be the last one we do of the year. So if anyone's in Nashville, it should be a really good time, a fun little dive spot here in town, and yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Oh, you're going to play at the end. I went there for the first time not too long ago to see kind of a one-off Demon Hunter show before they went and played some bigger shows. And I walked in, I was like, wow, this is maybe the smallest venue I've ever been to. But it was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, it's fun. Sometimes those can be the best ones. Just pack it out and everybody has a good time and gets to dance. So yeah, definitely come on out if you're in or around Nashville around then. Definitely come check that out. We'll be posting updates about it and links to tickets and stuff on our social media, which all of that stuff is at Lnyx Music. It's LNYX Music. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz, YouTube, things like that. We'll be posting show info up there.
Well, sweet deal, dude. Now that I know that you live closer by, we'll have to maybe have some of these conversations in person sometime in the near future. But, dude, it's always a pleasure having you on, and thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.